Hi, and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and I'm really excited to bring this author back to the show to talk to you about her latest book. The problem with making jokes about book titles is that sometimes the joke title is what sticks in your head, and so I just want to keep saying Two Fates, Two Fatious. That's not correct. The actual title of this book is Warrior of Legend, and the author is Kendare Blake. Kendare is absolutely one of my favorites. Just her personality is so much fun. She is so funny. She is so kind. She is so smart. I just love talking to her so much, and to get another chance to do so just made my whole day. We took a little time out of our schedules from YALLFest 2024 to make a little trip down to the water and sit in a little park and talk about Warrior of Legend and Buffy, of course, and many other things. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Kendare Blake. Welcome back to Literary Hype. It's so exciting to have you on. And we're in a whole different state this time instead of St. Louis, which is always more fun.
Yeah, and we're not in a hotel. We're like
sunlight.
in a beautiful park.
It's so
with
pretty.
The ocean.
It's very dramatically different from our last time sitting down. And it's been almost exactly a year, so what you been up to?
Oh, man. Time is strange. I've actually been slacking off pretty hard this year.
It's been a rough year for a lot of people.
I didn't do anything.
Well, I mean, you did put out a book, so we will talk about the book. But there's one thing I want to talk about first, because we talked about this off camera, and now I want to put it out into the world to maybe make it happen. Convince the people that ran BookCon and Book Expo to bring it back. Why should they bring it back?
Oh. Because we miss it? No, it was singular in like the book community for the people that it brought together. Like that was the big show. That was where the industry met the reading public, where librarians came in at the same time. I mean, nothing's come up. There are great festivals, don't get me wrong, and ALA and TLA still have fantastic conventions and things, but nothing's really come up to take the place of Book Expo / BookCon. So there's a hole. I mean, I understand. I remember how big it was and what a pain it was for publishers to put it on, and I totally get that maybe it's just become an inexpensive thing, a completely expensive thing that doesn't have the return on investment. But man, just from a book lover's perspective, I do miss it.
I feel like the book world has changed so much since that last one. Like the last one was in 2019. And reading has really taken off in a dramatic way since then, thanks to TikTok. Like, who knew that an app would revolutionize reading in a way that bring so many people back together? So I feel like it should come back. There's more readers now. There's
a lot of readers. During the pandemic, I mean, people just grabbed books and then they sat in their beds and wept while they read them. So, yeah, like, there are these, like, watershed things that kind of turn a generation towards reading. Twilight, Harry Potter, like those are big book moments. But sometimes there are things that happen just to us as a society that just make us want books more. And nothing good came out of the pandemic. But maybe the amount of books that I hoarded was something good that came out of it.
What's the favorite book you've hoarded since the pandemic?
Oh, I have my treasured hoarding pile. Like I'm a mood reader, so I'll find a book that I want and I'll just buy it. But if I'm not in the mood to read it, it'll just like stay and stare at me for years. Actually, I bought House of Leaves, which is a horror book that has been recommended to me for a decade.
Very popular.
Yes, it's like it's a new horror classic, and I finally bought it during the pandemic, and it looked at me for. I just started it in October.
Oops.
Yeah, it's very good, but I mean, it has to wait for its time.
Buying books, reading books, and talking about books, all different hobbies. They're 3 different hobbies, and sometimes you just don't have the time to do all 3 of them at once.
Yeah, or at least they're the same hobby, but it's in phases. I'm in my buying book phase.
Yeah.
Later, I'll be in my talking about books phase. Yeah.
Who needs a book ban? Not I. But also, since we talked last on camera, you got a puppy.
I did. I got a new puppy. He was born last January, so he's 10 months old now. So still a puppy, going to be a puppy for a couple more years. Trying to appreciate that.
And you kept him in the fandom name. Talk a little bit about his puppy's name.
He was born on Buffy Summers' birthday, And at the time, I was still writing in the Buffyverse with the Buffy the Next Generation series. So I took it as a sign. I didn't actually want a male puppy. We were holding out for a female. But when she said, he was born on Buffy's birthday, I'm like, ah! So we had to take him, and his name is Wesley Wyndham Paws.
I love it so much. It's so cute.
Yeah.
I'm glad you kept with the fandom. And Buffy is so special to you, as we talked about last time. And now the third Buffy book that you wrote is out in the world as well. And you just did a doodled and annotated version of it and gave it away. I looked at some of these pictures of your doodles. You're real good.
No. My stick figures, yes, they are legendary.
They're amazing. So how long did it take you to do all of the doodling and annotating? And what was so special about each of those moments that made you want to doodle or underline them?
So I have one more to do. I have not annotated and doodled a copy of Against the Darkness yet, and I will, and then I'll give it away. The giving it away is actually pretty hard because they do take me about 6 months to do, because I'll just sit down when I have an hour or two, have a glass of wine and doodle some Buffy. And my goal with each of these, because I put so many Easter eggs and callbacks to the TV show in these books, that I want to highlight and point out every single one with, and then I reference, this is a reference to season 4, episode 22, and then explain a little bit why. And so there's quite a bit that goes into it. And then sometimes I just like to illustrate my Buffy jokes. So.
Your Scooby was really great, though. The ruh-roh. I love that doodle.
That was surprising because I don't want to destroy a book, and once I'm pretty deep into doodling it, it's a one chance. So I could totally have annihilated that Scooby, and he would have had to stay in looking terrible. But he actually looks pretty decent.
I think so. How has doodling helped you in your creativity?
Oh, it hasn't. That's just something I really like. I like to do. It makes it a little bit more reader interactive. There's a independent bookshop that will, people can contact them and they'll call me, and then I'll come in and personalize any of my books. And also if they want a personalized doodle, they can ask for that as well. So it's just fun to see what doodles readers ask me to do. Some of them apparently really think I have talent because they will ask me for some ridiculous things, and I'm like, I do stick figures, yes? And they're like, draw me a red panda eating an ice cream sundae. I'm like, okay.
What bookshop is this for anyone who's listening and wants to get one of your doodled books?
Oh, it's Invitation Bookshop in Gig Harbor, Washington.
Shout out to the independent booksellers.
Yeah, they're great. They opened up during the pandemic.
Oof, rough time to open.
It was, but they're doing so well. They've really, really dialed in with the community. I love it. I'm so happy they're there.
Before we get too much into the next book, I've been dying to ask this question for so long. Last time we talked, you mentioned that there was a fandom that you wanted to write in, but you couldn't talk about. Has anything happened with that yet?
No, and unfortunately, I think it might have fallen through.
Which is why we don't talk about it until it's signed, sealed, and delivered.
We were talking about it, my editor at Disney and I, and we'd gotten a concept, and people seemed excited about it, and then I haven't heard. So either the entire project got put on hold, which means maybe it's not dead, maybe someday, I'll get to come back to it. But for now, I'm still saying mum's the word just in case. When it's dead, and when I'm 85, and I'm not writing anymore, then I'll just be like, it was this. But for now, I'm just going to keep it to myself.
So the Buffy trilogy that you were writing in the YA space is over. Is there any hope of more Buffy books?
Oh yeah, there's always hope of more Buffy books. Maybe not for me, but I'm a Buffy fan, so I'm always up for more Buffy content. And it seems like the Buffy fans who gave these books a shot, they kind of really liked them. And it's been so fantastic just geeking out with Buffy fans over this series, because my biggest fear was disappointing other fans. So to hear that, no, they enjoyed the direction and they thought it was really fun and they loved all the callbacks, that really makes my day. Just this weekend at this book event that we were at, I've had some really great conversations with with Buffy readers. So yeah, I hope that more Buffy fans catch on to the book, and it would be great to see Frankie the Vampire Slayer continue her adventures in some form. Not necessarily with me, but, you know, I mean, that would be really cool. Or just any more Buffy stuff. I'm always just more Buffy stuff forever.
More Buffy forever. It's fine. So that book came out right around the time we did a Battle of the Tropes panel. And, I'm tying this to your current book. This is my brain at work right now. We did Battle of the Tropes when you were promoting Buffy, book 3. And now you've got your new book out, which has my favorite written horse of all time. I love Silco. And you argued only one horse. And now I feel like I understand how you argued only one horse so well, because you have Silco.
Yeah, I mean, my argument against only one horse was that, think of the horse, you know? Like, you're having shenanigans up there, and he knows it, and he'd prefer you didn't. So I was really thinking about Silco and how if you try to have shenanigans on his back, you will find yourself very quickly on your butt.
Silco is so much fun. So talk a little bit about, before we get into the actual plot of the book, crafting a horse who can't talk but can communicate in other ways, and how you put that on the page for the reader to understand how the horse is communicating.
Yeah, so the rumor about the Aristine horses is that they're immortal horses, and they're really fast, and they're really strong, and they're smart enough to understand you. And if you're worthy, they will speak to you, but none of them ever have. So what does that say? But they definitely communicate in other ways. And anybody who's actually owned a horse or spent any time around horses knows that they do communicate. They definitely make their feelings known. So writing Silco, he has to use his body a lot. He has to use his teeth. And that is how they get their points across. A lot of what he does is actually based off of my mean horse Lassie, who frequently used her teeth to let me know how she was feeling, just what she would like to happen.
I love when you talked last time about, like, she would grab you and pull you off when she was done writing.
Yeah. Time to go back.
We're done.
Got it. I understood that. That was loud and clear.
Okay, so for anyone who has not seen this duology that you've got, tell us what's going on, what we need to know about book 1 as we go into book 2, No, that's not Warrior of Legend. I just tried to mix up both of the titles.
Champion of Warrior. Legends of Fate.
What? That's not even the title. It's Two Fates, Two Fatiest.
Oh, yeah. Champion of Fate 2. Champions Reloaded. So Champion of Fate is a story of a young girl who's orphaned when her entire village is slaughtered by raiders. She is discovered by 2 immortal warrior women, members of an immortal order. They raise her. And she would like to become a true member of her new family. So book 1, Champion of Fate, follows her journey to become a full member of the immortal warrior order and take her place. And book 2, Warrior of Legend, is about the fallout of those actions, because she made kind of a mess in the first book, and now she has to go on another adventure, which I think Warrior of Legend is a little zanier than Champion of Fate. Champion of Fate had some really serious themes, and Warrior of Legend, well, yes, the themes are also serious. It gave me an opportunity to have a little bit of fun, because the quest that she goes on, our main character is kind of like Xena Warrior Princess. She's a big girl, and she's very violent and no nonsense. And the mission they send her on, she has to become like a matchmaker in this ridiculous gown with like a terrible matchmaker's hat that makes her look like the top of a cake. So it was so much fun just to wedge her in that, knowing how much she hated it, and then just force her to pretend she knew anything about the ways of love.
Especially when you bring in her love interest from book 1 and she has to be around him and matchmake involving him. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, it's even worse. She didn't want to do it in the first place, and then she's like, oh, my ex-boyfriend's here, and oh, I'm supposed to hook him up with this girl, and I don't like that.
I don't like any of this.
Any of this, and also he's seeing me in this hat.
Which is It's so fun. I love the setup for this so much. It's just like that I don't even know the word for it, but just like that, I have to be around my ex, and I have to be he knows my secret too.
I know, and he's all pissy, which he has a reason to be, but
Deservedly
it felt
so.
very relatable to me because I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but every time I run into like an ex or something in town, I'm usually like looking my like,
Absolute worst.
like I've just trundled to town for like cold medicine in a bathrobe. Something like that. I was like, oh, great.
So she's in a
Hey.
Kit Kat,
Yeah.
and has to deal with her ex. But we also get more perspective from another character, one of Reed's little buddies from the Aristine. So what was it like exploring this world through the eyes of another character?
That was good. You get a lot more POVs in the second book because, the world expands. So the more complications come in, we had to go to different places, and we got to follow her best friend Leonine for a while because Leonine is also going to get up to some messes. And that was really interesting because sometimes when you're writing and a perspective feels like it's kind of fighting to be included, it gives you a clue to where the story's going, that they're going to play an outsized role in whatever happens at the end. And that's exactly what occurred.
Dun, dun, dun. We're not going to spoil anything. We're just going to say that Leonine's fun. Reed also gets a new name as now that she's an official part of the Aristine. So talk about creating the names for the characters in this book and how the meaning is so impactful to them.
Sure. So Reed gets a new name because everybody always teased her that her name wasn't grand enough. There can't be no Aristine Reed. That sounds ridiculous. You're like a stick, a bendy stick. So her name now is Macchianthe, which means like warflower or blossom of war. It's much better, but it won't stick. Like nobody will call her that. They just keep calling her Reed. And she's like, what was the point of this? But it was very important. I like to tie names to people. She's a warflower, and that's very much integral to her character. Leonine is very lion-like. She's got the mane. She's got the swagger. Yeah.
One thing I love about these characters is the sisterhood between Reed and Leonine and how they kind of have each other's backs, even when they probably shouldn't, and try to help each other in ways that they shouldn't. So talk a little bit about crafting women supporting women in a warrior world.
That was really important to me, actually. I was just talking to my writer friends about this yesterday. How I'm like, you know what? I love a good bromance. I love a bromance. House and Wilson, Anakin and Obi-Wan. I love that bromance energy. And I'm like, I don't have any bromance energy with my female friends. I want to start pushing you guys around and calling you brah and like telling you what bad life choices you're making and then like talking you out of those bad life choices while like giving you a noogie. And one of my writer friends was like, I can do that for you, bruh. I'm going to go make a bad choice right now. And it was just like, yes, I want this like semi-antagonistic but loving energy that, guys get to have, but with my girlfriends. That sounds fun. And that's the kind of thing that I wanted to bring to Reed and Leonine's friendship because they are very physical. I mean, these are tough warriors. Like they can kill like so easily. And they're oftentimes kind of pitted against each other. But I never wanted that to come between them. Even when they're frustrated with each other, even when they see each other making like huge mistakes, they're always going to support. Like they're always going to be there to catch the fall. It's never actually going to drive a wedge between them. That was really important.
Silco gets a little representation in the art of this book on the chapter pages.
I did ask for like little horsies and people to be like threaded into the cover, and the artist is amazing, Tomasz Majewski. I didn't specify the appearances of any of the warriors or any of the horses, but I feel like I can look at the cover and pick out exactly which one he was going for. So just did an amazing job. I think they did a beautiful job with the interior book design. But they just show me and I go, ooh, pretty.
Which, it's pretty.
It's
and I love
pretty. It's perfect. These books are fantasies, and they look exactly like that. Like, you know what you're getting when you pull it off the shelf.
It's a great cover, too. Well, both of them have spectacular covers. I love them so much.
For some reason, the Warrior of Legend cover with, like, the spear and the red and the yellow, it reminds me of, like a kung fu poster, like from an old kung fu movie. Like, if you told me Bruce Lee was in it, I'd believe you.
So in this book, we're seeing Reed as an Aristine doing well, and kind of experiencing the glory that she's creating for this goddess. So talk a little bit about building this world and what the glory would look like for these characters to experience.
That was a little more difficult because, I mean, glory is an intangible thing, you know, but the Aristine experience it physically. Like, they can feel it when glory is achieved, and they can feel it when it flows through them to their goddess. It's kind of like a rush. So the way I depicted that in the book was just like when there's the potential for glory around, like people start like glittering a little bit. They'll kind of get a glow. And if they're your hero, you can kind of see their path to it, kind of laid out in like a little strand of gold, so you can do your best to guide them in that direction. But I don't know when I decided on that. I'm just like, what would be nice? Gold. Gold's nice. Gold feels warm and cool. Warm and cool. Yes, I'm a writer. But so yeah, that's just what I fell on.
There's a line. It says, "Immortal lives were so long, there was nothing but time to develop talents." If you had nothing but time to develop talents, what would be like your top ones that you'd want to work on?
The top ones?
Yeah.
The top ones. I don't know. I think about this a lot when I'm watching Groundhog's Day. Because, you know, like, he learns to play jazz piano. I'm like, I would learn to play jazz piano. Like, I would totally, you know, kick that poor kid out of his piano lesson and steal it every day. So I would learn to play jazz piano. Or classical piano, any kind of instrument, because I'm terrible at that. I would learn to speak a language, a foreign language, a language not my own, because I am terrible at that.
Ditto.
So I think most of my time would just be spent learning cool things.
You just want to be smart and know all the things. I
Yeah.
understand this. This is a mood.
There's just not enough life to learn all the stuff that I would like to learn.
It's like the older you get, the more you realize that you know nothing, and it's just kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
It's like when you're young, you think you know everything, and it's like, I know so much nothing.
Well, when you're young, it feels like you're discovering things at such a rate that maybe by the time you're finished, you will know everything. And then, no.
There's too much.
No, it really slows down later, kids.
It's so unfortunate. If you could go back to your younger self, what would you want your younger self to know about the whole world?
Stock market tips.
It's really smart.
No, she wouldn't be able to do anything with that. Like, let me invest my $5 into Google now. No, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes the world's better when you have to just discover it. So maybe I wouldn't give her anything. Maybe I just dance around her and go like, "You'll find out," and then she'd hit me.
That would be really entertaining.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have learned about writing over the course of your career that you wish you would have known when you wrote your first book?
Nope. No. I think Anna Dressed in Blood, which was my first published book, is just about exactly what it was meant to be. Each book is different, and if I'm being honest, the book's writing now feels harder than it did then. Maybe it's because back then I was in a bubble and I was just writing with so much passion and I was writing just for myself. But I wrote Anna much faster and smoother than I write books now. Because it's a job now. Now I've got deadlines. The stories that I'm writing now are more complex. So I wouldn't change anything for that first book. I've learned a lot since then, so I don't want to make it say like, now I knew it all from the beginning. I have learned a ton, and each book is a new stretch. I'm always trying to do something different with each new project. I want to push something. I want to try something that I haven't done before. But yeah, I wouldn't go back and change anything.
Well, speaking of new projects, what you got cooking now?
Yeah, things are about to get real quiet around me land because my next book doesn't come out until winter 2027. So after releasing 2 books a year for the last 3 years, I am cooling it until winter 2027. I'm working on the book now. It is called The Stolen Queen, and it is about a girl who accidentally gets a god stuck in her body and has to figure out how to get him out, because she was supposed to have a different goddess in her body, like she was raised to be a vessel, but something goes awry and she ends up with the wrong god in there, and he's a real piece of work. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's going to challenge me in the way that I write humor, because a lot of the humor is visual, and that's hard when you're using words instead of images. I'm going to depend a lot on the imaginations of my readers to fill in those gaps. But I have faith in my readers. I have faith in all readers. They're good folk. But as far as tropes go, it's like, you've heard of just one bed, but are you ready for just one body?
This is gonna be the new one at Battle of the Tropes.
In Battle of the Tropes,
We're
just
gonna have
one
to
body.
do a 3-way battle of just only one bed, only one horse, only one body.
Only one body. It's going to be weird.
I'm so here for it. What are you gonna be doing with all this extra time that you're not writing 2 books a year?
Oh, well, I'm going to be writing 2 books a year. I'm only under contract for 1, but that means that I should write some of the stuff that I've been meaning to write that I haven't had time to do. So I would actually really like to write 3 Dark Crowns 5. And I will. I don't know if it'll ever get published. It might just be that I'm writing it for me, but the story's there now. At the end of Warrior of Legend, it kind of leads us right back to Fenburn Island and 3 Dark Crowns. So now I know where that's going, and 1 more book would just tie up both series. So I'm going to try to find a time to write it.
That would be perfect, because there's so much of Fenburn in book 2. There's a little bit in book 1, but there's a lot more in book 2 to bring it back to the island. And would you bring some of the characters from Warrior of Legend into Fenburn at that point?
Yes. 3 Dark Crowns 5 would be a Fenburn book, but we would also venture outside of the island. So the surviving characters from the 3 Dark Crowns would be the focus, but we would also see the surviving characters from Warrior of Legend playing a role. I don't want to say their names, because
No, you can't.
they'll know they live, and
can't
anybody's
spoil.
up for grabs. So
No spoiling allowed, as
Yeah.
much as possible. I have to cut a whole chunk out of the V.E. Schwab interview because she spoiled her book for me.
oh no, you have V.E. Schwab spoilers,
Yeah.
advance spoilers.
I've read about 80 pages or so of Bones, and then I talked to her about that, and she said something about that happens on page 100. She's like, oh, you're so close. She's like, could you rephrase the question? She's like, oh, yeah, let's talk about this, but can we rephrase it like this? And I was like, what? And she's like, uh-oh. It was so funny. And she's like, let's just cut all that out, and we'll go back to the way you said it first.
Well, at least we don't have to wait too much longer for that book. So
Just 7 months.
it's not gonna kill me knowing that you know things. I'll be all right.
I'm sure
Let
you
me see the footage. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm sure you could, ask some people, and probably.
No, I will wait.
Oh,
I will not spoil myself.
I mean, you could ask for a book. You're Kendare Blake. You could probably have a little pull.
We have the same publishers.
You do.
I could ask for a book. I never think of these things.
I know who her publicist is. I'll put
I
you in
usually just, I'm just like, oh no, I'll just pre-order it and wait. That's fine. That's fine too. I mean, I actually do. I enjoy getting it on release day.
It is fun to go in and get a book on release day, especially the way Barnes & Noble does ordering now, where they'll get 1 copy, and once that sells, then they'll order more. And so it's yours.
You just told me this, and I had no idea that was a thing that was happening.
Mm-hmm. So I bought the first copy on release day of this one, and then a couple days later, get 3. So then we have more to sell, and if we sell the 3, then we get 5. This is how Barnes & Noble works.
Oh, huh. Interesting.
with the hardcovers right now. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'll be interested to know how that goes.
We all are. It's relatively new. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I love this insider information. Like,
Right?
the bookseller information, we're usually not privy to. So
It's important.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is not weird and random, so.
I mean, weird and random is what we do. Now I want to know what weird and random thing pops into your head first.
Oh, like vegan cheese.
That's such a disappointment.
No, yeah, I'm looking forward to trying some vegan cheese. I saw, you get the Instagram ads, and sometimes they really get you. And I'm like, oh, that vegan cheese looks good. In my mind, I know it can't possibly be as good as I'm
disgusting.
hoping it is.
Sorry
but
to all the vegans. It's awful.
I'm going to order some of that vegan cheese.
Vegan cheese.
I'm
And
gonna
he's
put it
over
on
here, like,
my-
boxing.
Holiday charcuterie platter and just surprise myself and everyone that I have to my home.
That would be so wild to show up to a party and it's just like all vegan cheese and you don't know it.
All
And you're
vegan cheese.
expecting real cheese and
Well-
then you're like,
I'm going to go side by side with actual cheese,
okay.
too. So then there's a fair comparison, And also if it's really, really bad, then we'll just eat the regular cheese. But I want to give it a shot.
It would be kind of a fun April Fool's joke too.
Yeah,
Like-
or just...
It's only vegan cheese and it's like, oh no, this tastes totally normal.
What if all your friends were really polite, though, and they didn't say anything, and then they just hated you? Left.
Disaster origami. I made it bad. I love that from
this
Lee
is
Bardugo.
good.
Like, doo-doo-doo, I made it bad. Last question we always ask because this is literary hype. What books are you hyped about right now?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Aaron Craig's got a new one coming out next year. It's called A Land So Wide. I think it's an adult debut. And since I love everything that Aaron Craig writes, I'm very excited for that. I'm excited for a horror book that's coming out from my friend Lish McBride. I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything about it because I don't think it's been announced, but dang, it's going to be good. I'm excited for... This is really frustrating because there's so many things that I feel like I might just know about as an industry insider that I actually can't say because it hasn't been officially announced yet. So I'm just going to talk about something that like recently came out. Yeah, The 13th Child by Aaron Craig just came out. Ava Reed had a great Lady Macbeth.
Which is
Come
funny because that's
out.
what you mentioned last year that you were looking forward to that.
Yes, and I read it and it's great and it's so awesome. So I've had, like, those have been some favorite reads recently. Red in Tooth and Claw by Lish McBride was excellent if you're into, like, horrifying, weird Western frontier stories, which we don't have enough of. Yeah. And so many secret things that I can't say. It's so frustrating.
Now I'm just going to have to be like, tell me secrets off camera?
As soon as they get announced, I'll, like, forward them to you and be like, this is the one I was talking about.
Okay.
This is the one I was meaning.
That's an acceptable way to tell me the things when it's official
Yeah.
and not ruin other people's secrets.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't want to turn the writing community against you.
No, I don't want to blow it. Like, things within the writing community pre-announcement really have to stay within the writing community pre-announcement.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk about your brand new book, Warrior of Legend, with
Thank you so
Literary
much.
Hype.
It was so good to see you. I'm so happy we got to do this again another year.
And I guess now we just won't see each other on camera until like 2027.
Yep.
But it'll happen.
But we'll see each other probably at a con somewhere
Probably.
doing Battle of the Tropes.
Probably.
Just
if they
one
let
body.
us. Now this is going to go on the list. It's going to go on the list. I'm going to get myself fired at this point.
Thanks so much to Kendare for taking time out of her Y'all Fest schedule to hang out with me by the water and just have a real good time talking about all things books and pop culture. If you'd like to get your hands on Warrior of Legend, which you should probably read Champions of Fate first. I'm just saying it's kind of important to read the first book sometimes, and this is one where you want to read the first book. So you should order both books by using the links down in the description for you. There's also links to some of Kendare's other books. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to click that like button, subscribe to the Literary Hype YouTube channel, and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.